Hi guys, my name is Joan, the career coach. Happy New Year. I'm so excited to be back here again. This is my very first video of 2021. So today I want us to talk about employment gaps. Um, Most job seekers normally are afraid of explaining the gaps in their CVs because you are afraid of giving too much information or too little information. So I just thought to come on here and do a video to explain how you can navigate this question effectively so that you're giving the right amount of information. And the first thing I want to say is don't overshare. So it could be that you took an employment gap because you lost someone or you went through a divorce or something very tragic happened. What normally happens is if you start explaining and Makiu, you're explaining to strangers, then you start breaking down, it becomes very uncomfortable. So you don't want to overshare if the information that you have is very personal or it's very painful, because then when you break down, it just changes everything and makes everything uncomfortable. Then the other thing is, as much as I'm saying that you don't overshare, of course you need to offer an explanation as to why there's a 2-year gap on your CV or there's a 3-year gap. But this information, you need to be able to use your wisdom to know exactly, like what it is you're going to say. So maybe you took some time off to like maybe one of your relatives like had a terminal ailment and you needed to take care of them. That is something that you can say and explain well. Just make sure you don't give too much information, but there's a way that you can give the accurate information, but then not like too much. The other thing is you want to think about some of the new skills that you have acquired during the time when you took the employment gap. So maybe you took a 2-year gap to just try and reflect and see where you want like your career to head, or you traveled abroad. During this time, did you add any additional skills? Maybe you took a certification or you did some training. Be very careful to give something that is going to work for that organization. So if, for example, you took the time off to be home, and raise your child, you can't give an example like, nowadays I can change a diaper in 1 minute. Of course, that's not something that you want to say. Not to say, like being a mother is not important and the work that we do is is vital, because it is, but that's not a very good example to use during an interview. So you want to think about what are what are some of the trainings or certifications that you did and that could add value to your employer, and you want to highlight these things. The other thing is, so every time you find yourself in a situation whereby you want to explain the gap, as I've said, don't overshare, give enough information and give relevant information. But you want to shift the attention away from the gap to who are you, what is your value proposition, and what are you bringing to the table. I know I've said this like 1,000 times in all of my videos, because the truth of the matter is the value of a dollar remains a dollar, even if you step on it and squash it. It's still, like the value of a dollar is still a dollar. So even if you took like 2-year, like a 2-year gap or a 1-year gap or 6 months, that time does not devalue you. Your value remains intact. It's just that maybe during that time something happened, and life happens to everybody, and sometimes it's unfair that like we get judged just because you have a gap on your CV. But if you just now change the attention away from this gap to your value proposition, that is going to help you navigate this question well. The other thing is you really need to be confident about that gap, because if you come for an interview and then I ask you about the gap and you are wishy-washy about it, and you're not very clear about this gap, and basically just because you took a gap, you feel like you're not as valuable, and you're not 100%. That is going to show during the interview, and even the employer is not going to be sure about you. So you need to be sure about yourself. You need to be confident that yes, I have this gap and this is what I did during this time, but this is the value that I'm going to bring to the organization. And then the other thing is, so I'm sure you're wondering, like how long should that explanation be? How long or how short? And what I want to say is, it just needs to be enough, but you want to explain that employment gap and then move on to other things, move on to explaining the value that you can bring to that organization, move on to explaining the value that you have brought to other employers before, and why they need to hire you and not anyone else. So that's all that I had for today. I hope this video has been beneficial. Thank you, and see you next time.